This week, we're back in Fife, so why not come with us as we explore the beautiful village of Crail, right on the kingdom's edge. If you ignore the big white van, this is a really pretty little place. There is the puffins, and we are going down towards the harbour to have a wee look at Crail harbour and its beach, because as you know, De Niro does quite like a beach. And down there is the seaside. Oh, we're heading in the right direction, down to the harbour. De Niro is leading the way. De Niro is really good at leading the way, even when he's got no idea where we're going. And hopefully around here we'll get a nice reveal of the harbour. So I'm going to witter till we get as far as this corner, and then hopefully we will... there it is there. That worked really well. There is the harbour and some more general prettiness. Crail is an incredibly pretty place. If you do like a bit of traditional Scottish seaside scenery, then Crail is a very good place to come. It's not exactly been beaten with the ugly stick, as they say. And over there I can see a beach with cliffs all the way around and no one on it. De Niro has not yet noticed that it's there. There's so many little bits of old history in this town, like those holes up there that would have been where there would have been a roof or a floor on some building that is now long gone. Right, let's see if he's up for a wee explore. He's off. De Niro, yeah. First things first, and relieved of quite a lot of weight, it's time for a wee explore and a pee. De Niro will have to edit this bit out again. As well as greyhounds, this beach is also quite famous for fossils on the bit round there where all the rocks are sort of falling down. Apparently you find lots of fossils there. We've never actually found a fossil in our lives, but that might be an ambition for one day. Oh, I wonder if he's got something up with his back paw. He's got a bit of a limp going on there. We'll have to keep an eye on that and maybe stop him doing any more zoomies just in case. I wonder where he's off to now. De Niro! Hello pal, are you having a good look? Oh! He's definitely got something up with his back paw. I think we'll put him back on the lead. That is fascinating geology, possibly, no idea. There you go, that'll stop him doing himself any more injuries. He doesn't seem bothered, he's just limping when he's running, so I'm maybe just being a bit overly sort of protective. But we do like him. Do you like the new hoodie? I'm really not sure about the colour. Bex picked it for me yesterday when we were out shopping. That's the outer wall to Crail harbour, and it's not raining and it's not windy, so I think we might get a wee look at this from above, but you probably knew that was coming at some point. Well, that was quite good fun, but the weather is changing, so good job. We've got some drone footage before it gets wet, windy and horrible, which inevitably it will. So it's all traditional stone-built cottages and narrow, windy streets, and it's just nice. It's a nice place to come. If you want to come to Crail, you get the bus here from Kirkcaldy, I guess. There's no railway here anymore, not for about the last century. Go on then, if you want to go this way, let's go and see what's down here. I think it's just the back of the harbour. But the houses here are amazing. One sad thing is a lot of these houses are Airbnb and rentals now, which means in winter the place is abandoned. And up there is the back end of Crail Castle, which is a private house, I think. I don't think you can get into it, but we'll go and have a wee look when we put the drone up and see what we can see, apart from that rather fetching turret. You don't get much more of a traditional Scottish fishing village than Crail. And you can tell by the big remaining buildings that it was once quite a prosperous place. There was quite a lot of industry going on here. There were mills and all sorts of stuff happening. That house over there has got 1632 above its door. That one there's got 1626. So it's all also quite old. Genuinely quite old. Not sort of reconditioned and refurbished and made to look old. This is actually genuinely a very old wee place. And I'm still making the rookie mistake of trying to do this while I'm going up the hill as opposed to down the hill, and getting more and more out of breath the further up I get. Castle Hill and a lobster pot. Lots and lots of red sandstone. Red sandstone gives any place a sort of head start in the prettiness scales because it just looks so nice, and that's the outside wall of the castle. So this is the furthest out point in the Kingdom of Fife. And why is it a kingdom? Well, for that, what you need is a wee bit of history. The Kingdom of Fife was the Kingdom of Fib, one of the 7 Pictish kingdoms that made up a big chunk of what is today Scotland. The Picts themselves may be long lost to the mists of time, but the clues to their existence in this part of the world are still dotted about in places like the Weems Cave and St Andrew's Cathedral. De Niro, your coat is coming off you sideways again. That's quite nice up there, that sailing ship from that house is from 1895, and this one over here I'm guessing is a bit older. And everywhere you look there's more little ginnels and little alleyways and stuff, and again it's that one there, the blue and white one, is a holiday cottage. I'm guessing the rest might be as well. Oh, we missed the sea angling club thing. You can win £1,250 for the heaviest cod. That's a lot of money for a fish. I always like coming to places like this because they're still working harbours, there's still lobster pots and little fishing boats, and they've still got some of the life that once would have sustained the whole community, and now it's just a little sideline, I guess, for most people. I wonder what that was. There's a bit of stone sticking out of the wall. Anyway, there's a little flight of stairs. Let's go up there. I'm guessing there's not a proper path at the top, so I'm not going to be walking all the way around, or I will end up falling into the sea. But to be fair, falling into the sea would probably make for excellent content. Actually, it's not too bad, but I'm still not going to walk along the top of it. I'm going to walk along the bit down there that is much safer. It's quite sad that a lot of these little harbours are becoming the victim of climate change. Bigger storms and bigger seas are washing away breakwaters that may have stood there for hundreds of years. And with the financial state of the world being what it is, there's no money to repair them. This one is actually still in quite good nick, which is nice. We've come out the other end and we're at the little derrick that we saw from the drone. I wonder if that's got like a maker's name or anything on it, giving us a bit of an age. Oh, there isn't. It looks like there might have been a plate there, but there isn't anymore. But it has got written on the side, Dorman Long and Company Limited, Middlesbrough, England. So we might be able to find out when they were actually operating, making things like this. It's quite impressive how it all just... I love this sort of decay, the rust, and the way it just all goes like that. I think that looks so cool. And around this side there is a cogwheel, which is very exciting. Look at that, it's a massively exciting cogwheel. Massively exciting if you actually like cogwheels, which may be again a bit of a niche market. I had a look there and saw something and thought that can't possibly be, but this is obviously the sea, and out there, if you can see him, get my finger in the right place, there's a man in a wetsuit. You would not get me out there in this. Having said that, you'd probably not get me out there in the middle of summer if it was flat camp. Well, apart from in the kayak. If anything, it gets even prettier when you look at it from this angle. And that little building over there, behind that red boat, is called the Lobster Pot or the Lobster Shack, and in the summer they do the most amazing seafood. Bex and I keep saying we're going to come down. Everybody recommends it, and we've never made it yet, but one day we're coming down there for a lobster, because you're pretty sure that it's a fresh lobster if it comes from a boat there to the wee stall there. It's travelled about 10 metres from the sea. The wee coffee shop is open. That might be a bit optimistic. Does look very nice though. But the wee coffee shop that's open is not the most optimistic thing that you're going to find in Crail. Another really nice wee cottage and yet another Airbnb rental type place. Right, now I'm going to go and show you perhaps the most optimistic thing in the whole of Fife. And it's not that seagull, because I've got no chips. Now that's what you call a house with a cracking view, isn't it? I wonder if that's an old ship's bell that's been recovered hanging out the back of it. Anyway, cracking old house, view of the sea. Or if the tide's really high, cracking old house in the sea. Up here is the optimistic thing I was talking about. This is a place that gets about 10 seconds of sunshine a year, and somebody has built a sundial. I'm not very sure how often that is actually usable as a method of telling the time. Okay, I can take the mick, but this sundial actually dates back to the 17th century, and it was used by sailors and fishermen and townspeople for well over 200 years. And if you're wondering if I know all that information, I am reading it on that site. There's one of those very useful boards that tell you what you're actually looking at. It's a bit claggy today, so you can't actually see any of it. Well, you can see that is May Island over there. It must be nice living in your own castle with its own turret. Again, that will have absolutely amazing views. I don't know why I keep saying that. It's obviously going to have amazing views. It's looking out at the sea. The sea always looks pretty amazing. I would love to live in one of those sort of converted old like agricultural buildings or industrial buildings like the one in front of us, where the old cart door and the loading door at the top have now got massive windows in them. I bet they're really cool if they're nicely done inside, and that's just a small part of a rather large house. As the weather is still okay, let's go and look at Fife Ness and the lighthouse. And then after that, it doesn't matter if it starts raining, because we're going to go and look at a graveyard, and rain just adds a bit of ambulance. On the way into Crail, you pass this, which is obviously quite a nice old red sandstone ducat. Now a ducat was where they kept pigeons to get eggs and the meat to feed the people that lived in the big house. But as you can see, there isn't a big house here, so we'll have to do a bit of research and try and find out what that ducat was associated with. They're always a good sign that there's archaeology or there's history in the area. If the ducat survived, then other bits might have survived as well. Well, I was going to drive down to the coast for a wee bit of an explore and a look around. Unfortunately, I noticed this on the way in. Fortunately, I noticed it whilst I was still over there, but Daisy is 2.7 metres tall and the barrier is 2.1. That's not going to go. So this is getting on for the furthest out point in Fife. I've parked in a non-golfers car park just in case anyone mistakes me for a golfer, which is not likely. Hiya.
Hello.
You the guys for the pound for the parking?
Yes, yes.
Don't spend it all at once. Yes, right, so I've paid my £1 in the pro shop and now we're going to go for a wee explore, not of the golf course. I'm not a big fan of golf, I don't get it. If you do play golf, can you let us know why? That's being a bit unkind. I have got some friends who are golfers. Well, acquaintances. I know you're expecting some sort of smart comment, but I'm not going to make it. That is a machine for washing your balls and that's not funny at all. I don't actually know if that's true or not, I just wanted to get that joke in to annoy Bex. There's just a few what must be the most hardcore of golfers out golfing today. This is quite exposed. There you've got massive breakers and possibly a bit of a storm brewing, and there you've got men in funny trousers playing golf. I said we were going to go and show you the lighthouse, but if you've got expectations of a massive, majestic sort of Edison or Stevenson type structure, no. That's not what the lighthouse here is like, but it's still interesting-ish. This is another area with quite a lot of history. This is the local harbour, or was the local harbour. And this thing in front of us is interesting. See that round thing there? That was going to be the base for a 40-foot high lighthouse, but they just about got it finished and the sea had other ideas and knocked it down again. And out there, those rocks over there, are North Car, and there used to be a lightship moored out there that I'm going to go and find a picture of and show you it now. Sadly, the lightship has seen better days, but it used to be a tourist attraction in Anstruther, which is another village we're going to have a look at some point in the future. Anstruther is another very pretty little place, and over there is the lighthouse that we're going to go and have a look at. Told you it was a bit underwhelming. That's a sort of design drawing of what the lighthouse would have looked like, and that little ring in the stone there is all that is left of it. And that wee house there was the first Coast Guard station, and those houses up there, I've got no idea. I've always wondered why they were built. They're not really, they don't really fit in. It's like a row of like 6 or 8 houses just in the middle of nowhere. I'll show you them when we get up there. They're actually quite nice houses. So this is Fife Ness. This is the very, very, very edge of the kingdom. In fact, those rocks down there are the very edge of the kingdom. I could go and stand on them and say I'm at the very edge of the kingdom, but I'm not going to because I'd probably fall in and it looks a bit chilly. And that's a cracking house over there, isn't it? Somebody's just bought a plot of land right out here and built an amazing house with amazing views. And round this corner is something that's interesting in a relative sort of way, because there's the lighthouse up there. And down here, this was part of the defences for the RNAS Crail, the HMS Jackdaw, and this is a bunker that was built here by the Poles because Polish troops were stationed in this area and trained in this area, and they built this. We can go in for a wee look if you want. Do you want to go in for a look? You've got no choice, because as I always say at this point, I've got the camera. So there you are. It's about as exciting as you can imagine the inside of a concrete box being. It has got an amazing field of view. Anybody trying to attack would be coming up against machine guns that are mounted on that side and that side, so it'd be quite a difficult nut to crack, and obviously defending the airfield it had to be. And this thing next to the scheduled ancient monument is a bird hide where the birds all go to hide. I don't think that's what happens, but it's exclusively for the use of the Fife Bird Club. There is a Fife Bird Club. I bet they are an absolute barrel of laughs. So there's the wee Fife bird hut, there's a big bit of stone, and there is the low light, the lighthouse up on top of the hill. It's quite cool. There's a man in here wondering what I'm doing. It's owned and operated by the Northern Lighthouse Board, and there's a man in there must be doing some maintenance, and he's wondering why there's an idiot standing on the beach in a bright orange hoodie talking to himself. Well, again, that was quite interesting until the drone started to say, excuse me, it's a bit windy up here, I would land if I were you. So we landed. this is a wee bit of beachcombing on a beach, obviously. You can't really do it anywhere else. Hoping there's something interesting on this beach, or I'm just wasting everybody's time, including my... Oh, there's a bit of stoneware pottery base. This might... yeah, that usually indicates the presence of an old dump, which it would make sense if they just dumped their rubbish over here. So let's see if there's anything else interesting lying about. Like that. A large chunk of quite old glass. Yeah, there's a tip here somewhere. Yeah, we're definitely in the vicinity of an old rubbish dump, because there is some part of a Pond's face cream type jar thing, so there must be a tip around here somewhere. We're not going to spend too long looking for it. You're always looking for evidence of how old a tip is when you start to find bits and pieces that indicate that one might be nearby, and this is a bit of blue glass, which is exciting, but it's a screw top, which means it's much less exciting. Yeah, I'm guessing that is probably 1950s, 1960s maybe, and I think that is a bit of an old sauce bottle. We've got hundreds of examples of those back at home, so we certainly don't need a small broken piece, or indeed any more intact ones. It's getting wilder and wilder. Thank the Lord for the fluffy microphone, otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear me. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you decide. Such cool wee houses. I don't know why they were built, possibly part of the Coast Guard station, don't know. And there's a really pretty rainbow that you probably can't actually see. The weather today cannot make its mind up. It's blue skies and sunshine and pretty white fluffy clouds and cold and windy and trying to rain all at the same time, only in Scotland. Not quite sure what's going on with all the frothy, scummy stuff down there. Not sure if that's natural or something unpleasant, or something naturally unpleasant maybe. Right, I think it's time to head back into Crail, because I know a shop that does a really good bacon roll. We do like a nice bit of driftwood, and this is a very, very nice bit of driftwood. I wonder what its story was, where it originally came from. De Niro's really missing out. I asked him if he wanted to come with me, and he just lay in his bed, looked at me and went, no thanks, it's windy and cold and miserable out there, and you're an idiot. This is another one where you'll have to use your imagination, but there used to be a tidal powered mill here, and that's what it would have looked like. There's nothing of it left apart from some marks in the stone. There's some holes drilled and stuff where sluice gates would have gone, so not very exciting to see, but interesting to know what used to be here. And that rainbow is still doing its best to brighten up our day. For those of you who are into your Scottish history, and I know quite a few of you are, this little cove is quite significant in the history of this country, because this is where Queen Mary of Guise came to go and marry King James V. And if you've never heard of Mary of Guise, you've definitely heard of her daughter, Mary Queen of Scots. Mary Queen of Scots is a name that pops up all over this country and begs jokes. Every single castle in the country has got a thing up that says Mary Queen of Scots stayed here for one night. The sky is definitely getting bluer, and the rainbow is getting a bit more rainbow-ish. And we're back at Daisy, and hopefully De Niro, unless he's figured out how to open a door and escape. Which you won't do. If you could open a door, you'd open the door to the cupboard that's got all the biscuits in it. And now we're going to head back towards Crail and have a wee look over the fence at Royal Naval Air Station Jackdaw, which was a base during the First World War and the Second World War, and there's an awful lot of it left. It's a really good survivor. Unfortunately, you're not allowed into it. The landowner will not let you onto his land. He's also got lots of signs up saying no drones, which although is not actually legally enforceable, there's no restrictions in the area. I'm driving a big white van, so if you see a drone in a big white van, they might very quickly put two and two together. It does look like an amazing place for a wee explore. I know a lot of people have explored that. If you look on the internet, you'll find lots and lots of videos of it, but we are not going in there because we don't like climbing fences and we're not that brave. But that is the old control tower, and over there is the old airfield and the hangars from HMS Jackdaw. And there's a slightly closer view of the back of the hangars, and you get an idea how big this place is, apart from the fact obviously the hangars are quite big buildings. But if I look over there, there's some more airfield buildings, and behind us, over on the other side of the road, there are lots and lots more. There would have been ammunition stores and fuel stores and maintenance depots and all sorts of stuff, all spread out, so if one went boom, the rest of them would not also go boom. I suppose the fact that this is a little bit out the way in this corner of Fife is the reason that so much of it has survived. It would be, as I said before, an absolutely fascinating place to go and visit, but you're not allowed. One day we'll find out if we can get in. They have motor racing events here. Maybe we could go to a motor racing event and just happen to go for a wee wander about and a wee explore while we were there. So there's a memorial from the First World War, and there's a memorial from the Second World War to the men of Crail who gave their lives. And in case you didn't notice it in the background, we are now at Crail Parish Church. And of course we can't visit anywhere without visiting the church and the graveyards. I just got to the church and a lady said, Are you at a loose end? Why? Did you handle something? Yeah, but it's quite heavy. Let's see what I've got myself into. Well, I'm carrying part of a podium back to this lady's house, but the good news is, after I've done that, she says I can go in the church and do a wee bit of filming inside the church. So I can show you guys the inside of Crail Parish Church, which from what I've just seen in the last 2 seconds is very, very nice. Well, that's my good deed for the week done, and that was a lot heavier than it flipping looked. And now we're going to go and look inside the church. This is so cool. Like a lot of churches in Scotland, it's at risk of closure because there's lots of churches and not a lot of people go to them these days. But this lady that I met has just been giving me a bit of history of this. This is the magnificent organ, and that actually came from someone's house. it was bought in 1936 from somebody in Kirkcaldy, so somebody in their house had that. I've got a guitar. Somebody had that massive organ, and I'm going to keep saying massive organ. You can all stop sniggering at the back. This was all been renovated in the 1960s, but bits of the building go back to the 12th century, so it's another really, really old little sort of parish church. It'd be a real shame if it was to be lost, but hopefully they'll keep it going. And another benefit from the sort of renovation in the 1960s are these are old pew backs. These are the backs of rich people's chairs dating from the 1600s. Those are oak panels from various local families. There's the Airdrie family, whose tomb monument thing we're going to look at outside again. And my friendly little tour guide, who's over there, has just been telling me that up the top there, that used to be all the trades in the village, and there would have been a lot. Remember, the whole community would have been based here. They all had their own little loft, and their lofts were all painted, and they all had their own little, like, advertising, basically. People would come to church and know that the shoemakers were paying for something, or the fishermen were paying for something. And all that survives with that is this painting of a fisherman, which is quite nice. That survived because it was used as a floorboard. So somebody would be ripping up floorboards and then find that and think, oh, we thought that we'd lost all that. That's the only bit that's left out of all the lofts. It would have been all the way along the top of the church there. And this is an old Pictish carved stone, which is another rare survivor. How these things last, you don't know. They get broken up and used for building materials, or smashed up by people that didn't believe that the Picts were worthy of such beautiful artwork. This is really nice. It's all animals and nature and stuff, and it's 9th century, so it's after they converted to Christianity, as you can see by the great big cross. Oh, that was, to use a word that I don't use very often much, that was lovely. She was so nice, and she was made up to have a visitor and somebody who was interested in her wee church. This is definitely the coolest thing here, cooler than any of the graves. This is what they call a mort house, and a mort house is where you put dead bodies, and you put the dead bodies in there under guard until they're decomposed enough to not be of any use to the body snatchers. So body snatchers would steal bodies from graves and sell them for medical research. So you got put in there until your bits were all squidgy, and then you were no good for medical research. And it is open, and I've done this before on when we were here last time, but it was a bit damp and miserable, and I may have squeaked when I opened the door. But this is the inside of the mort house, where the corpses would have been left to rot, basically. And reading that sign, the inscriptions on the bits around the edge here go from 1598 up to 1723, so it's quite a big range of dates on these memorials. Let's go and have a look at some of the more impressive ones before I get blown over. Unfortunately lost to the mists of time, but that must have been quite an impressive memorial back in its day. There's just the barest outline of a skull and crossbones and bits and pieces down there, but it's all just been weathered away. Crail is a really pretty wee village. I do hope that I'm capturing some of its niceness, because it is an unbelievably nice place and unbelievably busy in the summer, not quite so busy at the moment. And this one in the corner is reputed to be the oldest grave in the place, and this is James Lumsden of Airdrie, who died in 1598. I'm reading that from the thing that lady just gave me. I'm not suddenly an expert, but that is really impressive. It's just recently been renovated and restored. I think that looks cracking. Good for another 400 years. The little guide names the families behind all of these monuments on the wall, but I'm not going to bore you with all that. You can just have a wee look and see how impressive they all are. The only other cemetery I've ever been to that has got this sort of thing going on is Greyfriars in Edinburgh, and Greyfriars in Edinburgh is world famous because of a wee dug. This place is much less famous and much quieter, and I think is actually nicer. This is an amazing wee cemetery in an amazing wee village. Oh dear, that's not long for being upright, is it? That is erected by Helen Chalmers Duncan. Helen, whoever put your thing up, it's going to be lying face down quite soon. Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? That's quite an intricate ship. This guy must have been a nautical gentleman. Oh yes, Thomas Dixon, shipmaster, who died at Dieppe, France on the 16th of June 1866. This is another cracking wee graveyard. I do hope you like graveyards, because we quite like graveyards and I quite like talking to myself, so it's a marriage made in a graveyard. If who remembers our video when me and Dero went up and did Undiscovered Sky with Willie and Sarah from Living the Sky Life, well, you remember the church that we found. We thought it was a church but we weren't sure, but it had windows like that along one side and the windows on the other side were all small, and we thought, well, was it a church or was it just like a schoolhouse or something, because would a church have had big windows on both sides? Well, this one answers that question, because as you can see there, that is big pointy windows, but the windows on the other side are all small and square. So there you are, that kind of points to that building that we found on Skye being a church. And there's me, hello! I think we've got a new definite contender at the upper echelons of our hierarchy of amazing old graveyards. Methil Mill on last week's video was quite impressive because of the sort of small interesting bits, but this one is just impressive on a grand scale. It is a monumentally impressive array of monuments. Right, coming a little bit further down the main street, that is the old toll booth, and the really cool little tiny building next to it is the museum. But guess what? It's closed. What sort of buzzing metropolis doesn't open the museum on a Monday morning in the middle of December? I don't know. Well, we've missed all these, but there's at least 3 of those I would have gone to see. A couple of interesting things here in the town's market square. This was a memorial fountain presented by that Andrew Mitchell bloke there for Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee in 1887. It's quite a nice wee fountain, but it's not as interesting as what is just over there, because over there, once again, we have Scotland's favourite imaginary animal, the unicorn. This is the town's market cross. As any of you that have watched any of our videos will probably know, a market cross meant that the place was legally allowed to have a market, and a market was good because they could tax the people that sold stuff. So a market cross was a licence to print money for the good burghers of Crail. That is an amazing looking building over there. They're all quite amazing looking buildings round about here, to be honest, but Mr. Unicorn up there presides over them all and has done so since the 13th century. Obviously not that exact unicorn. So the market cross is the symbol of the right to have a market, as I just said, and there was a market here from the 1300s right up until the 1800s when the weekly markets stopped. And that amazingly cool wee building there is part of Crail Museum. Unfortunately, Crail Museum is closed, but it does have quite a cool feature outside that again you might have seen in some of our other videos. Above the door there is a inscription, a lintel that says TM IP 1703, and that is a marriage lintel. That is when TM married IP in 1703. And then the building was rebuilt, as you can see above. Anyway, ignore the rebuilt bit, just imagine that dates to 1703. And that's it for this wee episode of Scotland on a Shoestring from the East Nook of Fife and Crail. So if you have enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for more.